She found it amusing to pull a prank on me at my birthday celebration, presenting me with a box containing divorce documents. The room erupted in laughter. I had just extinguished my candles. 2 days later, she received a letter from my attorney. A man's 40th birthday is meant to be a landmark, a moment to reflect on life's achievements and celebrate the journey. My 40th, last Saturday, was indeed a turning point. It was the day I realized my wife of a decade didn't merely lack respect for me. She openly loathed me. And it was the day I chose to return the sentiment. Let me set the scene. My name is Daniel, and I run a commercial property company. It's a demanding, high-stakes industry, and I've thrived in it. My wife, Emma, used to manage an art gallery, but now, in her words, orchestrates our lifestyle. In truth, that means she spends her days at Pilates, enjoying extended lunches with her jobless friends, and burning through my income. For years, I didn't mind. I loved her. I took pride in providing a life where she didn't need to work. But in recent years, something shifted. Her gratitude morphed into a toxic sense of entitlement. My role in her life changed from partner to financier, from spouse to a walking bank account. Her jabs at my expense, always in front of her friends, grew sharper and more frequent. She ridiculed my taste in films, my dull hobbies like hiking, and my wardrobe choices. I was the plain, unrefined man who funded her extravagant lifestyle, and she resented me for it. I wasn't spineless. I fought back. We had explosive arguments. Massive, heated rows. Each one ended with her in tears, accusing me of being cruel, of lacking a sense of humor. Then she'd give me the cold shoulder for days, and I, foolishly, would eventually cave just to restore peace in my own home. I knew our marriage was crumbling. I even suggested couples therapy. She scoffed at the idea. "We don't need a therapist, Daniel," she said. "You just need to loosen up." So, for my 40th birthday, she decided to help me loosen up. She hosted a lavish party at our home. My home, a crucial detail. All our friends were there. On the surface, it was a fantastic evening. Great food, lively music. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. Then came the cake and the gifts. I sat at the head of our dining table, a massive, over-the-top cake with 40 candles glowing before me. The crowd gathered, singing. For a fleeting moment, I felt content. I thought, maybe, just maybe, we'd be all right. Then Emma emerged from the kitchen, holding a single, elegantly wrapped gift box. "I have one more surprise for you, darling," she said, her tone dripping with artificial warmth. "This one's from me." She set the box in front of me. It was surprisingly heavy. I glanced at her, noticing a strange, eager spark in her eyes. A warning sign I'd come to associate with impending drama. Her friends, a clique of snobbish women I've always disliked, stood behind her, phones out, filming. I opened the box. Inside, tucked in tissue paper, was a sleek, leather-bound portfolio. I opened it. The first page was a professionally designed cover sheet. It read, "The Offices of Carter and Wells," and below, in bold letters, "Petition for Termination of Marriage." It was a complete, legally formatted set of divorce papers. My name, her name, all our details. She'd consulted a lawyer. She'd had these drafted as a joke. I just stared at them. The room fell silent. Then I heard a chuckle. It was one of her friends, then another. Soon, her entire side of the room was roaring with laughter. It was a harsh, mocking sound that filled the space. They thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. I looked at Emma. She was grinning, a smug, victorious smile, as if she'd just delivered the ultimate zinger. She was basking in her friend's approval. I didn't say a word. I just looked at the papers. I looked at her, reveling in my humiliation. I looked at the 40 candles on my cake, took a deep breath, and blew them out. I made a wish, a very deliberate wish. Then I stood up. I smiled, a real, heartfelt smile. "Brilliant prank, darling," I said, my voice steady. "You really got me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll grab some more wine for everyone." I left the room without looking back. The party was over. My marriage was over. And my wife had just given me the greatest birthday gift of all. The perfect, undeniable reason to dismantle her entire world. Update 1. The rest of the evening was a performance worthy of an award on my part. I returned with the wine. I laughed, made jokes, and played the role of the good-natured husband who could handle a prank, no matter how vicious. Emma and her friends were elated. They'd proven, once again, that I was the predictable, boring guy who'd take whatever they threw at him. They had no clue they were celebrating their own downfall. Once the last guest left around 2 a.m., I went to my study. I still had the box with the divorce papers. I pulled them out and examined them. They were legitimate. She'd actually paid a lawyer to create them. The level of planning was staggering. I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk, making a plan. My retaliation couldn't be impulsive. It had to be calculated, precise, and financially crippling. She turned our marriage into a punchline. I was going to make her life the joke. On Monday morning, I began. My first call was to my attorney. Not just any attorney, but the most formidable divorce lawyer in the city. A woman named Laura, known for her relentless approach. I shared the story. I sent her the photos and videos Emma's friends had so kindly recorded. She was quiet for a moment after I finished. Then she said, "Oh, we're going to enjoy this." My second call was to a private investigator. I gave him one target. Emma's closest friend, Claire, the leader of her little posse. I suspected Claire's perfect life wasn't as flawless as she claimed. I told the PI to dig deep. My third call was to my bank. I had several joint accounts and credit cards with Emma. Over the next hour, I withdrew my share of the funds and canceled every card linked to her name. Her financial lifeline, me, was cut off. My final move that morning was the most gratifying. Emma had a horse, an absurdly expensive show horse she adored. It was her status symbol, her pride and joy. The horse was kept at an elite equestrian facility. The monthly fees were exorbitant, and naturally, I paid them through a credit card I just canceled. I drove to the facility. I met with the owner, a woman I'd spoken to before. I explained the situation. My wife and I were separating. I would no longer cover the horse's expenses. I told her, per our contract, she'd need to contact the horse's legal owner, Emma, to arrange future payments or the animal's removal. The owner was understanding but firm. Business was business. She said she'd reach out to Emma that day. I went home and waited. The first sign of impact was a frantic text from Emma around noon. My card was declined at Saks. What's going on? I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. The stable just called. They said you're not paying for Luna anymore. Is this a prank? It's not funny, Daniel. I still didn't reply. I sat in my study, staring at the box of divorce papers she'd given me. She got home around 4 p.m. She stormed in, her face contorted with fury. "Daniel, what the hell are you doing?" I looked up from my laptop. "Just following your example, darling," I said calmly. "You wanted a divorce. I'm just moving things along. I thought you'd be thrilled." "That was a joke," she screamed. "A prank. You know I didn't mean it, didn't you?" I asked. I stood and faced her. "You hired a lawyer, Emma. You had legal documents prepared. You and your friends planned this. You recorded it. That's not a prank. That's a performance. And you know what? Convinced me. You were right. We should get a divorce." "You can't do this," she wailed. "I can," I said. "And I am. My attorney will contact your lawyer, the one you so kindly named, tomorrow with an official response to your petition. I suggest you figure out how to pay for him because I won't. And I suggest you find a way to pay for your horse, your car, and your brunches, because the Bank of Daniel is closed." I turned, walked back to my study, and shut the door. I could hear her screaming and smashing things in the living room. It was the sound of a woman realizing the joke had always been on her. Update 2. The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal strategy and growing panic on her part. My lawyer, Laura, was ruthless. She filed a counterpetition for divorce, citing extreme cruelty. Her key evidence? The videos from my birthday, conveniently filmed by Emma's friends. The judge, Laura said, was not entertained by the stunt. Emma's life unraveled at lightning speed. With her cards canceled and accounts drained, she was suddenly penniless. The equestrian club gave her a 1-week ultimatum to pay the thousands owed in fees, or they'd sell her horse to cover the debt. Her car, leased in my name, was repossessed from her parents' driveway, where she'd been forced to move. Her friends, who had laughed so hard at my expense, vanished. It's amazing how fast people scatter when the one footing the bill is gone. Then came the private investigator's report, and it was more than I could have hoped for. Claire, the ringleader, was having an affair with the husband of another friend, Sarah. The PI had photos, hotel receipts, everything. I held onto the information for now. It was my trump card. The final showdown came a month after the party, at a mandatory settlement conference. Emma and I sat across a long, polished table. She'd spent the past month trying to paint me as a controlling, humorless tyrant to anyone who'd listen. Her lawyers opened with absurd demands. She wanted the house. She wanted half my company. She wanted permanent alimony. When they finished, Laura just smiled. "That's a creative story," she said. She then outlined our stance. Emma would get nothing, no house, no share of my business. In fact, we demand she cover her half of our joint debts, which, without my income, were substantial. Her lawyer laughed. "On what basis?" "On the basis that your client entered this marriage under false pretenses," Laura said coolly, "and her documented pattern of cruelty and infidelity." "Infidelity?" Emma's lawyer said, confused. "There's no mention of infidelity in your petition." "Not on my client's part," Laura replied. "But we have compelling information about your client's social circle." Then I made my move. I looked at Emma. "I know about Claire and Mark," I said quietly. Her face went pale. Claire was her closest ally, her excuse for countless shopping sprees and late nights. Mark was Sarah's husband. "If this goes to trial," I continued, "your friends will be subpoenaed. They'll testify under oath about the affair, the prank, everything. Are you ready to drag your entire world down just to take a shot at mine?" She stared, speechless. She looked at her lawyer, who now regarded her with unease. "Or," I said, leaning forward, "you can sign the papers. Walk away with what you brought into this marriage. Nothing. And we both move forward." The choice was hers. Final update. 6 months have passed. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks after that meeting. She signed the papers. She had no choice. The threat of mutual destruction was a language she understood. Her life, from what I hear, is in shambles. The story of Claire's affair leaked, as I knew it would. The friend group collapsed spectacularly. Sarah, the betrayed wife, filed for divorce and cleaned out her husband's assets. Claire is now a social outcast. And Emma, with her 2 closest friends no longer speaking to her, is utterly alone. She had to sell her horse. The equestrian club auctioned it off, and I heard it sold for a fraction of what I'd paid. She's still at her parents' house, working a low-end job she despises. The curated, perfect life she built was a fragile illusion, and one push brought it crashing down. I saw her once, a few weeks ago, at one of my restaurants during a routine check. She was there on a date with some guy who looked as shallow as she was. She saw me. Her face was a mix of fear and raw hatred. She and her date left shortly after. The real revenge wasn't the money, the house, or the horse. It was stripping away her power. Her power came from her social status, her friendships, her ability to control others. All I did was hold up a mirror showing her and everyone else who she truly was. A cruel, entitled woman who thought her husband's love and respect were a punchline. She handed me divorce papers as a prank. In the end, I handed them back to her for real. She thought she held all the cards, but I was the one who walked away first. She thought she was in charge. In the end, the only thing she controlled was her own catastrophic collapse. My life is calm now. It's peaceful, and it's mine. Entirely mine.